Hello, a very good afternoon to you. 12 months ago today, Rangers and Aberdeen met in the 1987 Skull Cup final and provided us with one of the outstanding Scottish football matches of the 80s. Today, those same two sides, probably the two outstanding teams on current form in Scotland, meet to contest the 1988 Skull Cup. And the earnest hope of the almost 75,000 fans at Hampden Park, and to those of you watching at home as well, is that the game we see today is reminiscent of last year's classic and not at all of that ill-tempered affair at Pittodrie a couple of weeks ago. It's a fairly damp and rather dismal afternoon, I have to say, here in Glasgow, but that's not the thought in the minds of those players as they warm up on a fairly sodden pitch, I would imagine, for this final. The family enclosure there filled with supporters of both teams, you'll notice, and that is a nice touch indeed. Almost 12,000 of them, and we hope that they enjoy this game, which kicks off in just under half an hour. You can see the entire match here live on BBC One Scotland on our Sports Scene special. Marvellous atmosphere as always at Hampden before the big game. And with me in our special studio are two fellows who know a thing or two about finals, Jim Craig, the former Lisbon Lion, and the former Grade 1 referee, Alan Ferguson. Let me turn firstly to you, Jim, and obviously we're looking for a final rather like last year's. What's our chances of getting it, do you think?
Well, if both teams come out with a real positive attitude, which you really should do in a cup final, and at one time was a tradition to come out in that sense in a cup final, then we'll get a good game. But it'd be totally unrealistic to think it'd be as good as last year, which was really a classic. Yeah,
it was indeed. I think possibly because it was away from the pressures which we all know about in the Premier Division. Two teams that wanted to come out and win. There was no thoughts of playing defensively and going for a draw.
No, that's perfectly true. And you know, until recent years, cup finals were always played in that principle. But defensive football has really come into play in Scotland over the last 10, 12 years. And players have to make a conscious effort to throw off the shackles. Both those teams today can attack very well, and I'm hoping, like you are, for something close to last season.
Yes, yeah. Let me turn to you, Alan. From the referee's point of view, a lot of pressure, more so perhaps than in most finals, and George Smith today. You presumably feel for him?
Yes, certainly I would like to be in George's boots. I must admit, I never managed to get a final, and George has waited a long time for the League Cup final, which is his first, of course, today. I think ground conditions are going to be very important for him, because I would imagine you'll have a lot more sliding tackles on a wet and rainy surface at Hampden than you would have done, obviously, on top of the ground conditions. But he's got a hard afternoon ahead of him, and I hope he comes through it with flying colours.
What about at this particular moment? What are we? Less than half an hour to kick off, as I said. Do referees get nervous as well? How do they spend those last few minutes in the dressing room?
Well, we're all individuals, of course, but George is one of the calmest referees in the business. And although it's his first League Cup final, he certainly won't have any nerves. The adrenaline will be flowing and the butterflies will be in his stomach. But I would imagine that will keep him on his toes. He's one of the few referees in the country who gives pre-match instructions to linesmen. So in about 15 minutes' time, he'll be sitting down with the two linesmen and obviously a fourth official who's here today to give them his particular pre-match
telling them
instructions.
What, briefly, Alan?
Well, he'll be looking to make sure that the concentration is spot on, certainly in the first 10 minutes of the match, as he would obviously hope his would be too. Certain instructions that come from George will be along the lines that in the first 10 minutes of the match, he would expect the linesman to be looking towards his attention so that they don't have any foul-ups, that they get them all together.
So they have to work as a team, obviously. I mean, it's a three-man operation in a big match like this. OK, well, we'll talk more about the game in just a moment, but obviously we want to savour all of the atmosphere at Hampden this afternoon. So let's now go down to trackside, where Archie McPherson has with him a couple of passing supporters.
Well, you know, a cup final is really all about support in the Tennessees, the huge crowd, the vociferous cries and the chants and the songs. But there's another element of support, and that's a high-caliber, sophisticated supporter. And I have two examples with me now, Robbie Shepherd and Andy Cameron. Robbie, who are you supporting with a jersey like that?
I don't really know, but by my voice, I presume it's Aberdeen.
What do you make of this?
Oh, I know. I hope his next is ready at the end of the game, Archie.
Well, tell me, a sense of humour is great, but can you really have it on an occasion like this?
As long as we sit at opposite ends of the stand and we don't meet each other during the game, But at the end of the game, whoever wins, I'm sure Robbie and I will shake hands and say it was a good game.
Well, I hope so. Do you think we're getting a bit too serious about football nowadays?
I think so. I mean, a great point that I heard last week. A pal of mine was up in a hotel in Aberdeen. Went in to congratulate Willie Miller in winning that last game against Rangers, and then he got a shock of his life when there's Terry Butcher beside him.
Yeah.
I mean, after the game's finished, that's it.
Of course. There's too much said about what's going to happen here as regards the other game. Forget the last game they played. What about the game here last year, the Skull Cup final? It was a great advert for football. I hope we get that today.
Mark, football does give you plenty ammunition for your stage lot, doesn't it?
Oh, I without a doubt. Oh, dearie me, aye. I mean, the recent sort of wee slump in Celtic's forts and jokes come out of once. They were unbelievable. I don't want to repeat any today, you know, but
No jokes about Aberdeen today.
oh, I'll say no more about that. That end will be empty. They'll all wait for the last 20 minutes to get in for nothing.
I wouldn't let him away with that. Are you more confident than he is?
He's not getting away with that. We've got a goalkeeper now. We've taught the Aberdeen expression mean. And our goalkeeper knows all about the meanness of the Aberdonian. No goals going in.
I think you should remind us, gentlemen, that Rangers did go through a long spell where this man was weeping into his handkerchief.
Well, you better believe I was weeping into my handkerchief. My nose was running as well as blue at that time. But look, it's all over now. We've got a great side, and I'm delighted to say that Graham Souness is responsible for the resurgence of Scottish football. And I hope today that you see the best of Scottish
Don't get
football.
too high now, don't get too high.
Well, I'm excited, you know what I mean?
What's the mood of the Aberdonians coming down here?
Oh, great. Absolutely great. I think we've got... we're going to rely, of course, on a new goalkeeper, and these two great lads, Miller and McLeish. We know them, no goal score against them.
Well, they're certainly going to be ahead, but looking round just now, I mean, Rangers have an absolutely amazing support turning up here now.
Wonderful support. They've had it all season, Archie. And the beauty of it is they lost the game at Aberdeen and they still chanted at the end of it. And that's something that Rangers fans never ever did. But they did it this season. They're really behind the team. I think we have a great support here.
And quite obviously the change of management hasn't disturbed Aberdeen in any way. They're going strongly.
No, they're going strong. And the spirit is high as well. We don't shout the same, you know. We're quieter people up in
Oh, you don't shout the same as that. End of peace. Link arms. Link arms.
All my best, Robbie. I hope it's a good game.
Hopefully the last violent act of the afternoon. Well, we've been talking so much about that great final 12 months ago. Let's perhaps bring you the first item of team news, which is that sadly Davy Cooper will play no part. He isn't fit and hasn't stripped for action this afternoon. That's a great shame from the Rangers' point of view, because he did, of course, score one of the great cup final goals, and we can enjoy that again. Everyone expected last year, as I think we do today, a low-scoring affair. How wrong we were to prove to be. It was a veritable deluge of goals. Here they are again.
The Skull Cup final turned out to be the kind of theatre that would run to full houses for years if replayed every night. Aberdeen were first on stage and Jim Beck remained cool. Rangers didn't reply. They exploded. Davy Cooper's left foot ignited the fuse. Then the man of the match emerged. 20-year-old Ian Durrant with a masterly sense of pace and position, and with a little help from a friend. Aberdeen, far from dumped, found their balance through the man whose goals always seemed to be significant, John Hewitt. Then suddenly, when time was running short, Willie Faulkner found spring in his legs, direction with his head. Extra time always seemed likely, and it was duly confirmed when McCoist and Flex saw the apparition of defeat and dispelled it with a dynamic response. No more goals, and the penalty shootout became a shredding of nerves, particularly those of a Welshman. The cup went to Ibrox, the single honour and the climax to Durrant.
And those two players who played such a major part in that penalty shootout are one of two of a long list of players who play no part in this year's final for one reason or another. Jim, a great final, obviously, with those 6 goals. I think, again, today, a lot is going to hinge on how the two centre-back pairings cope with the two strikers. Would you agree?
I think that's quite true. I think Aberdeen have got the better defensive partnership there, because I like to see a sweeper playing behind the centre-half. I think that Rangers, Richard Gough and Terry Butcher, not quite get used to playing beside each other so far. And the only thing in their favour is that Aberdeen, I don't think, have anyone with real pace to go at them. John Hewitt certainly won't, I think, play through the middle. He'll probably play coming coming off either wing. And Charlie Nicholas, of course, who has the touches and the arrogance, not quite the pace he once had. So I think that probably Rangers have got more places they can score from than Aberdeen today. That might tell in the end.
What about the pace that the game will be played at, Alan? Because from a referee's point of view, I mean, you have to make decisions pretty quickly anyway, but the faster the game is played, the harder it is for a referee, isn't it?
Well, yes, that's very true. Of course, George will not be pacing the game, expecting it to go into extra time, so he'll put everything that he's got into the first 90 minutes and keep his fingers crossed that he's had such a good game that if it goes to extra time, he's likely to enjoy that part of it.
Right. Do you see it being a studied sort of a game, or will it be played at a fast pace?
I think it'll be a fierce pace from the start to finish.
I think you're probably right,
and I think ground conditions will make it that way.
All right, well, we can talk a bit more about the game, but let's hear now from two of the players who will be involved and will be hoping to play large parts in this afternoon's match. Charlie Nicholas of Aberdeen, and firstly, Ali McCoist of Rangers.
Yes, well, so far I've had very good memories of Hampden, and hopefully it'll be another one today.
That Scott Cup final last year was a particularly memorable occasion, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think I've played in a better football match, Bill. It was it did everything for the fans, and I don't know if my heart could stand up to another one, but as long as the end result's the same, I'll be quite happy.
The last 3 years, Rangers have been scoring very fluently in the Scott Cup. Any particular reason for that?
No, I don't know. I couldn't put my finger on it and put it down to one specific reason. I think just the Rangers Football Club like to attack and play good football, and while doing that, we scored a lot of goals, so hopefully we can continue that today.
Now, everyone realises it was a hard battle a fortnight ago at Pittodrie. What are the instructions from Graham Souness today?
Oh, I mean, we're not even thinking about the hard battle at Pittodrie a fortnight ago. That's the last thing in our minds. It's today's game's first and foremost in our minds, and we were going out to play good football, hopefully win the cup for Rangers.
Ali, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks very much, Paul.
Charlie Nicholas, it's not such a good day as it was yesterday, but how do you think that will affect the game?
Well, the wind's not too bad, so I don't think it'll give us a big problem. The pitch is looking perfect. This morning it was fine. So I think all in all it should be a good game. The weather's no problem.
Last year, of course, the two teams served up a real classic. Is it going to be as good this time?
We certainly hope so. We've come here, obviously, to win the cup. That's the first thing in our mind, the same probably with Rangers. We'll try and play to the best of our ability. Hopefully it will be a good game. But the main thing is to win the game on the day, and we can't promise a spectacular game, but we'll certainly hope so.
What are you looking for personally? What sort of service are you looking for?
Well, obviously I rely greatly on my midfield service, balls into my feet and such. I'll be looking for that today, but if it doesn't happen, I've got to work hard. We'll be working as hard as obviously Rangers will be, and we'll try and get the breaks a bit more than them. And if our passing game becomes the way we want it to, I'm sure we'll do well in the day.
You've played Rangers, of course, this season already. You know they're a difficult side to beat. How easy is it going to be today?
Oh, it's never easy. No matter whether Rangers are good or bad, it doesn't make any difference. They're a good side just now, and they'll give us problems, but I'm sure we'll give them problems. They're strong favourites. They've got to come out and they're expected to win every game. We're expected to be second best today, but we don't feel that way. We feel confident, and we'll give Rangers a good win for the money.
Charlie Nicholas, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
These, thankfully, will not be playing this afternoon. These are the gigantic figures which are part of the pre-match entertainment. There certainly aren't Robert Redford lookalikes, that's for sure. And entertaining a very big crowd. It's building up towards its 72,500 limit. There's part of it. We're looking at the traditional Celtic end of the ground, which is largely populated by a family section. That's the one you're looking at the moment. And just to the right of that, the Aberdeen supporters. As we just pan along this terrace, and you'll get eventually into the Aberdeen support, and these people in the front of the stand will very kindly sit down. Now, this venerable old stadium is criticised for many things, but it never fails to rise to the occasion. You get a packed crowd in this ground, and you have this keen sense of anticipation. I mean, everybody's nerves go. You come to a cup final like this, and you feel, well, you've seen it all before, and yet it gets to you. And a man who certainly is not impervious to excitement is beside me just now, Ali McLeod, who back in 1975-76 played in was manager of a side which played in a very memorable League Cup final when the Aberdeen side he managed beat Celtic. Ali, you remember that day well, don't you?
Yes, it was very similar to this, a full house, and in your own mind you're wondering, will everything go right, or will it be a walk away for the opposition? But on that particular day, Aberdeen, everything went well for them, and we had in the end, after extra time, a victory.
While the Rangers support there are vast, as you obviously can see, do you think this will influence the game in any way at all, Alan?
No, I think it's a tremendous to have that support behind you, but when you're in the opposition, you're just so determined to make sure that they go home with egg in their cheeks. And I think it will help with the Aberdeen team as well as the Rangers side.
Now, the Aberdeen team are extremely experienced. I mean, you mentioned it. There's a look at Theo Snelders, for example. He's making his debut at Hampden today. He's an excellent goalkeeper. But let's have a look at how Aberdeen managed eventually to get here to Hampden Park.
First corner of the game. Willie Miller's up. And a header by Hewitt. Aberdeen have scored. Jim Beck will take the free kick for Aberdeen. McLeish coming in from the back, and Brian Grant. A lot of space here. The header by Grant.
Opportunist goals, Ali. Look very good indeed.
Typical Aberdeen, you know, hold on for a long time, then hit the opposition, and big dodge getting in at the near post. You know, that's what they're good at.
I mentioned experience about them. That can never be overemphasized on an occasion like this. I mean, 9 of the squad already have League Cup winners' medals.
Yes, I think they're very experienced side. Their goalkeeper, there still must be a question about him today. I think he's a tremendous goalkeeper, but this must be his biggest occasion. And I don't think he's ever been in a park like Hampden before, and it will be very important how he plays.
Do you think they built these models in our image now, Ali? I think you're a bit heavy around the midriff.
Oh, I wish I was playing against him every week.
Well, in the background, the Rangers support, they're confident, but I wonder if there's a question mark about being just overconfident on this occasion.
Well, I think Aberdeen's a different kettle of fish from most people. Aberdeen are a confident type of team, and they're playing Rangers, and they have a great record against Rangers. I know they lost the last cup final here against them, but they're so determined to, I would think, to succeed this time. And I don't think the Rangers fans will be 100% confident.
Well, Rangers got to the final by beating Hearts in the semi-final. So let's have a look at how they demolished Hearts in that semi-final evening here at Hampden.
You take it, looking for close support. Stevens, dummied. Henry Smith did exceptionally well, but Walters is there. Often as they shall not pass mood. Mark Walters. Chance to run and Whittaker. The double shuffle. Oh, Smith! And Nisbet turns it home. Woods taking his time by our watch. Just over a minute left for play. Gray gets a glancing header. Walters!
Well, there are the teams. I think they'll come up now. Hopefully Aberdeen first. Yes, there it is. I said a very experienced team, except for the man who Ali mentioned earlier there, Theo Snelders, the Dutchman who was signed from FC 20. I was talking to Gordon Hill, who was playing for Manchester United a few years ago, and he thought very highly of this man. Indeed, he thought that Manchester United should have gone for him first, rather than the man from Aberdeen, Jim Leighton. Stuart McKimmie at full-back, always mobile, possessor of a League Cup winners' medal. David Robertson, a youngster, only 20 years of age. And being a defender at that age, I suppose we always look for a youngster to mature very quickly. They really have got to when they are defenders. Neil Simpson. But Neil, well, he got a bit of a roasting when he came onto the park, but I must say, I don't think that'll bother him at all. He was born in London, by the way. Alec McLeish, tall, dominating the backbone of the side, along with Willie Miller, who will be playing in his 6th League Cup final this afternoon, would you believe? I remember a couple of seasons ago, somebody said to me, I don't think Willie will last another season. Well, here he is, captaining his team once again with the possibility of winning another winning medal. Jim Bett, he played in 2 finals for Rangers. There's been a lot of swapping in this game, as we'll see before we get to the end of the actual team list. And he scored 3 goals in the Skull Cup. Robert Connor, Davy Dodds, 2 finals for Dundee United. Charlie Nicholas played 1 for Celtic, and then, of course, John Hewitt at the end. And the Rangers side, now, I suppose it's a sign of the times and the trend that Rangers have decided to accept and develop, that not a single player you're looking at was reared at Ibrox. They've all been transferred, they've all been bought into the club. Chris Woods is quite exceptional. He's won 3 League Cup medals on both sides of the borders. Nottingham Forest, Norwich, and of course with Rangers here. Gary Stevens has played in his cup final for Everton. John Browns is one of the few people on this park today without a medal of any kind. Ray Wilkins won a cup medal with Manchester United. Butcher with Ipswich. Neil Cooper for Aberdeen, would you believe, in 85-86. Richard Gough played for Dundee United here in the League Cup final. Ian Ferguson at number 8 scored a marvellous Scottish Cup winner against Dundee United when he played for St Mirren. And Andy McCoist is playing in his 4th final, and he's won every one so far. And Kevin Drinkle and Mark Wattles, along with John Brown, 3 of the players out of this bunch who still require to win something. Both very strong teams, Ellie.
Yes, I would think that the Rangers side, on paper, looks as if they have the more experience. And I think that Ray Wilkins is the key man of the whole match. If he handles how he can, I think he's the one who Rangers will depend to see them through.
Well, I think if it's about football, you would like to see the likes of Bett and Wilkins flourishing today.
Oh, yes, I think that's what we all hope for. We all hope for all the class to show through and not the hard football that we saw in the league game.
Well, I doubt very much of that will influence this game in a positive sense. I don't think anybody's going out for vendettas and to kick each other.
No, I don't honestly think that the league game has anything to do with today. And I think all the good sides of Scottish football will be seen today. And I'm looking forward myself, particularly, to see the skills of Walters, Nicholas and Hewitt, because I think they're 3 talented players. And I'd love to see all their skills shown through.
Well, I think we can go back to the studio now as we wait here for the teams to come back on the pitch at Hampden.
Yes, thanks to Archie and to Ali. Back with Jim Craig and Alan Ferguson. We've been accenting, I think correctly, that marvellous final 12 months ago. But we can't let the match a couple of weeks ago go unnoticed, because it didn't show Scottish football in a terribly good light, for various reasons, obviously. Let me come to both of you. And with particular regard to that unfortunate Neil Simpson-Ian Durrant incident, Alan, from a referee's point of view, do you think Neil Simpson should play today? We've seen that he is. Would you have played him in Alex Smith's shoes?
Well, I'm absolutely astonished at the naivety of the Aberdeen management and Aberdeen as a club, that Simpson is actually on the park today. I think if you're trying to stop vendettas happening, then you have to remove the source of that vendetta in the first place. And I find it very hard to understand how they could imagine that Neil Simpson will be able to concentrate on the match for 90 minutes today, because I would think that every time he touches the ball, he's going to be given a roasting by the Rangers fans. And in which case, I can't see how he can concentrate on the match to play to the ability that he has. That's interesting. So you're suggesting a vendetta. I mean, presumably, and hopefully from the fans giving him a hard time, rather than from any Rangers player going out with some idea of revenge. Well, I think it's inevitable that somebody's going to be fouling somebody during the next 90 minutes. And it's inevitable that Mr. Simpson, I would imagine, will come in for some fair, hard treatment from Rangers players. I don't see how it can be escaped. And he shouldn't have been in the park in the first place, in my opinion. Right, well, before we get Jim Craig's view on that, because that's a controversial viewpoint there from Alan Ferguson, let's see again that unfortunate match played just a couple of weeks ago at Pittodrie. Aberdeen victorious 2-1.
Boots in at the near post, so is Brown. Gough beaten there by Robertson. Cooper! What a goal! Cleach to take the feet. Gough and Dawes, away by Stevens. Aberdeen keeping the pressure on. Hewitt. Penalty! Up comes Bett. Aberdeen are level. Aberdeen come again. Bett. Useful ball. Wood stays. Nicholas scores.
The goals from that match, I don't think we needed to see again that injury to Ian Durrant, but Alan Ferguson reckons that Neil Simpson should not have been played today, Jim. Would you go along with that?
Well, I look at it from the other point of view. Whether he plays well or badly today, he is worth his place in the Aberdeen team. The management know the boy well enough to have the confidence to play him today. And I think that any professional footballer going onto the park this afternoon is obviously under pressure from the fans. And since an incident like that happened so recently, Neil knows better than anybody else that he'll be the target of the Boo Boys this afternoon. But it's a chance for him, Dougie, to show the character that we all know he has. And more importantly, it's a cup final, and players get very few chances to play in cup finals. And I think Aberdeen are quite right to play them.
Right, so there we are. Disagreement from our guest, and I think the one thing that should be said, and I think it's important, is that no one will feel worse about the incident than Neil Simpson himself. But he plays this afternoon, and we're getting very close indeed to kick-off now, so let's go down and take a look at the scene. In the tunnel there, the ball boys awaiting the arrival of those two sides. It's again a fairly damp afternoon, so conditions underfoot perhaps a little bit heavy. The ball boys begin their move, the team's shortly about to appear, so let's join now our match commentary team, Archie McPherson, and with him Ali McLeod.
And you can hear the roar in the background from this over 70,000 crowd, dominated mainly by a huge Ranger support that stretches 2/3 of the way round the ground, and a very healthy Aberdeen support to the right-hand side, which you'll see, I'm sure, in due course. And the players, I'm always convinced on this occasion, this is something they do not like, the preliminaries. There's the Aberdeen support. And Hampden erupting now. As I said, this great sense of anticipation is now developing into the real thing.